and she would stand at the end of my bed,
Oh,
and she had a butcher's knife in her hand.
oh
But
my
she
my
would,
God.
yeah, she'd stand at the end of my bed like
come on.
every
Don't do
night.
that.
Yeah, every night.
Ryan, what do we love?
We love ghost stories.
And what do we have?
We have people with ghost stories.
So what are we going to do?
We're going to listen to those ghost stories.
Let's get spooky.
Let's get spooky.
I had like a lot of weird dreams as a kid with like I remember the first dream that I can physically remember is I was standing in a room and I was looking at a coffin with a skeleton in it, and the walls were like wallpapered with this like red rose wallpaper, and there were like torches on the wall. And I had that dream when I was 3 or 4. I
Oh
don't
my
really, yeah,
God.
and
God.
I know it's just a lot of
It's a
like
lot for a 3 or 4 year old
yeah,
to.
weird stuff from the time I was very young. And then I, so as a kid, I talked to a lot of people. I saw people in my house. That was, I didn't really pay attention to it much. But when I moved to New York, that was when things really started getting weird. And uh, so I lived in an apartment on 96th and First, and this is probably the scariest moment of my whole life. I was on the ground floor apartment, and my roommate went to Israel on birthright. So I was alone in the apartment for maybe 7 days, and she had a little papillon that she let me watch while she was gone. And got this weird feeling late one night. And then I was in my room with the door closed, and the dog, Mickey, just started looking at the door and growling. And my door led to this like long hallway,
Mhm.
and I just started getting this overwhelming sense of fear, and like way more intense than I've ever felt in my whole life. And I just knew that there was something on the other side of the door. And I can usually see things like in my mind's eye of like I know what a ghost looks like. I know I can see facial expressions, but this was not a human. This was okay, the best way I can explain it to you is like a boar's head
Oh.
with, yeah, with like this big cape, and he was standing on the other side of the door, and he had like a medallion on, and he was just standing there like, and I knew, I was like, if I open that door, like I'm going to physically see this, he's going to be there. Like I don't know what this is. I've done a ton of research over the years trying to figure out what this was, and I can't really come up with it with any definitive information. But the dog was growling and barking and like jumping at the door, and so I just basically like hid under the covers for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, it was the most, like I said, the scariest I've ever been in my whole life.
And
And
there was never a knock. It was just
no,
like the dog
it
was
was just,
barking and you
yep,
yeah.
the dog was barking and growling, and it led to this long hallway, and I just had a vision of what was on the other side. And it's like it's almost like it was saying like, if you open this door, I'm gonna like take your soul.
Have you ever done any research of like, you know, pig-headed
Yeah.
caped being, or like
Well,
I don't know
I've met a
what.
lot of those in my life.
Uh,
Uh,
I lived in LA.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Come
yeah.
on.
Yeah, I was in the industry.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I've done some research on like boars' heads, and I've come up with a few like different mythical creatures throughout the years. Nothing quite looks like what I saw in my head of what was standing on the other side. And I've talked to a few like demonologists, and you know, I just know that from what they tell me, like that's really bad. Like the feeling, the emotion, it's like
Yeah.
a very, very, very intense demon.
That's like a Baphomet. Like
Yeah.
there's
It's honestly like I said, it was just the weirdest. It was all of a sudden, I was just in my room hanging out, like, watching TV. And then it was like the dog started growling, and it's like, it was palpable,
yeah.
like the energy coming off this thing.
Wow.
And
Oof.
yeah, there was a lot of weird little entities in New York. Like, this one followed me. I had to move back to Alabama at one point, and this one followed me. It was, imagine like Lucille Ball. And I used to see this woman fairly often. She looked like Lucille Ball. She always had her hair up, and she had a string of pearls, and she would stand at the end of my bed,
Oh,
and she had a butcher's knife in her hand.
oh
But
my.
Oh
she
my
would,
God.
yeah, she'd stand at the end of my bed like
Come on.
every
Don't do
night.
that.
Yeah, every night. So I would wake up and I
Every
would,
night.
Every night,
every
like
night
as a child?
no, after
This
I
is New
came back
York.
from New York. Yeah, I would see her in New York, and she followed me all the way back here to Alabama when I had to come
Oh,
back here for a while.
oh no.
And it was just the creepiest. Like, I would wake up in the middle of the night, like, and then I'd look and I'd see her just standing there like, hey. And yeah,
So
Oh,
so
always, and it was always this, she always looked the same. She
always
always
the
had this
same,
knife.
just
Like,
this, yeah,
you
just this very
know,
like kind of like crazy grin, like just really happy with a knife in her hand, like a big knife. And she had a polka dotted dress on. And she just, it was very weird. But yeah, she was with me for maybe 3 or 4 years.
would
And
she disappear? Like, would you eventually just kind of like conk out and fall back to sleep,
yeah,
or?
I started having dealt with little entities my whole life. I started being able to tune them out. They
Yeah,
usually catch me by surprise when I'm relaxed or not actively trying to tune something out. I'll see something or something will appear, and I immediately, if it's scary, I try to like, just turn that off and like
yeah,
shut it down. I don't tend to get involved. I don't ask questions. I don't say, who are you? What are you doing here? It's just it's very vivid when I see
yeah.
it's so interesting because I think a lot of the time, as we've done these and heard these stories, most people, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, are like skeptics, and most people are
Yeah.
like, I want to see something. I want to,
Hmm.
and this is why this moment is scary. Looking down this alley and seeing this shadow, and you seem to be very much like, no, this is a definite thing that I've experienced my whole life. And I was going to ask, do you still, these imaginary friends versus like seeing things, do you still experience that like even today?
Um, oh yeah, definitely. Like, that's why I was saying it's so funny that Matt, asked me to do this while I happen to be back here in Alabama, because this tends to be the strongest place where I've seen manifestations. And even now, just being back here, I've been here back here 2 days, and last night I couldn't sleep. I was just getting weird, like tingly feelings here. I live in Las Vegas normally, and I run a few different rental properties, so I'm always in different homes. And there's a few ghosts in Vegas that I see, and
Wow.
like, this one house that I lived in for a while and is now a rental property. There's an old man in there, and we're doing research trying to figure out if somebody died there or what. But sometimes I'll be cleaning the house, and he walks into the living room, and he's just like, he's not angry. He looks very confused, just like, what are you doing here? Like, are you supposed to be here? And I'll just say, it's okay, like, go back in the bedroom. And then he just turns and he walks back into the bedroom.
So, and this looks like an old man. It's not like
Mhm.
a see-through or a semi-see, like
It's
transparent or,
There's just a almost like slight iridescentness to these things that I see. But it's very, very formed. I feel like I could almost reach out and like actually feel somebody or something.
Yeah.
but it's
Um,
different than you would know if like somebody came to your door
yes.
and was a human, a
Yeah.
live human.
Oh yeah.
Because as somebody who's never seen it, I'm like, I always wonder, like, how do you know it's a ghost versus a?
Well, sometimes you don't know right away. When there's a barn. I also rodeo professionally, so I've ridden horses my whole life. And there's a barn out here in Alabama that I used to work at.
You buried the
And
lead on that one, but
yeah,
that's That's pretty cool.
Thank you. There was a barn out here that I worked at. It had 50 stalls, and there was this stall on the end where not only myself, but a few of the other girls, we all described the exact same person that we saw. And the horses couldn't stay in the stall. Anytime we'd put a horse in that stall, they would freak out, they would rear, they would, bite at the doors, like very unhappy in that stall. And the first horse we put in there, we thought, this horse just doesn't like this stall.
Yeah.
The next horse, same thing. The next horse, a calm lesson horse that you put beginners on, same thing. Like, what is going on here? And I would be at the barn late at night, mucking stalls, riding my horses. And I'd always get this weird feeling every time I passed it. I never really saw anything to begin with, but we had to walk past that stall to take our muck buckets out to the dump. And I remember one night I turned around and there was this man standing there. He had brown hair. He had a flannel hoodie on. He had like jeans with little pockets, and he just had his hands in his hoodie pocket. And I did not know that that was not a real human at first. I thought that that was a person. I thought somebody had walked onto the property. I was like, oh my God, tonight's the night I die. Like, there's some serial killer here. What is he doing here? And then I just stood there for a minute and started walking back up to the guy to ask who he was and what he was doing there. And then he just kind of it just was gone, just disappeared. And I was talking to another girl who worked at the barn. I said, I had the weirdest thing last night. I thought that this man had walked up onto the property while I was mucking stalls. And she goes, was he wearing a flannel hoodie? And I was like, holy shit. And then our friend Catherine walked up and she's like, wait, are you guys talking about the guy that shows up at night with the flannel hoodie and the brown hair? And we all just were like, oh my God.
Wow.
Which is interesting because where this barn is, back in the Civil War days, this was a place where people used to come and hide horses. So it was very dense forest, and a lot of people would steal horses for the war and hide them out there. And there was a lot of, shifty things that happened in this area. So we don't know who or what kind of energy is out there, but it's definitely this one spot that is just very, very bad,
wow.
very dark.
And it's confirmed by people and animals.
Animals. Yes.
That's incredible.
The animals always tell you, I mean, I feel like they know before we do. And then I've had actual physical things happen, not just seeing things. In this house particularly, one night it was late and I was like, I want to watch a movie. I don't know what I want to watch. And so my bed kind of goes like this out of the wall. And beside my bed, there's a desk, and it had my television on it and a DVD player. And it was that old kind of square TV with the built-in VCR and, nothing fancy, nothing special. And right across from my bed is my shelf with all of my DVDs. And I stood up and I walked over to the shelf and I bent down. I was just looking at all the DVDs. And then all of a sudden my TV turned on. So TV turns on and I slowly start looking over okay, that's weird. And then the DVD player turns on and spits out, opens up the DVD player.
No.
Yes. So I just sat there for a minute, what did that really just happen? And I walked over and the TV's just on, DVD player's open. And I'm like, okay. And I'm looking around, did I step on the remote? What? No, remotes were inside the desk in a closed drawer. There was no possible way that I could have done it.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
the pig-headed man wanted to watch Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
I know. Did you ask me? She's like, so then what do you want to watch? If you
I was like,
pull out a
okay.
DVD.
Yeah. And
incredible to keep putting movies in, and every movie just gets spit back out until you get the one that they were like, I don't want to watch that.
You could have just told me.
The Fugitive again. We're not watching The Fugitive again. Send it out.
Yes. So I called a friend and I told her about it. she used to live in Boston, and she lived in Salem and used to go to Lori Cabot's. And so she's very like, spiritually aware. And I talked to her about it, and she said, I think that you have a poltergeist. So she had me put a pencil on top of the television, and every night it would just rotate a little bit more. Yep.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. So
what's the thinking behind that?
What an
Like, is
amazing
that,
detail.
I've never heard that, but is
it's
that something people do to kind of like test
a poltergeist, just to see if there's like energy like moving through things, because apparently they like to move objects. And for something strong enough to turn on my television and open up my DVD player, she was like, you might have something really bad in your house. But it never, to me, it seemed helpful.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, we're gonna watch a movie. Like that didn't seem dark. And she sent me a little vial from Lori Cabot's that had a spell in it or something. And she just told me to sit it on top of the television, and that it would eventually go away. And after a while, the pencil wouldn't move anymore. And yeah, but there were a few nights I would wake up and the television would be on. So yeah, very weird. Also,
you would ghost me.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I would be as a ghost, perusing your DVDs.
You're like, come on, let's watch a movie. Like it's,
Yeah.
I almost attributed that to, so on the other side of that wall is my shower. And for the longest time this was another ghost that I think came with me from New York, but there was this boy, I feel like, who lived in my shower. And he had like short, like brown bowl cut, and he would just sit in my shower with like this, just all the time, not moving. And that was confirmed to me. One of my best friends, I'd never told her about this, but she came and stayed the night with me, and she was sleeping on the side of my bed where the television and the shower is. And we were just about to fall asleep, and this is also the girl who I talked to about the guy at the barn.
Yep.
And she jumps up and she goes, oh my God, I think there's a boy in your shower. Yep. And yeah, I should totally have her come on and talk to you about that. And I was like, oh my God, with a bowl cut. And she's like, yes, he's just sitting there and he looks so sad.
Oh, no.
And I know it was, he was with me for a couple years too. And
do you find that once they're like,
yeah,
like you have Lucille Ball for like a little bit, and then when she's gone, is there like a moment where you realize that and you're like, oh, I wonder, or are you like thrilled, or at least like
that one? I was like, thank God, like she was creepy as hell.
Mary F. Kill, Pig-Headed Man, Shower Boy, and Lucille Ball.
Okay.
These are tough.
I'm gonna say.
By the way, this is probably the wrong thing to do, because if any of them feel disrespected, they're gonna be like, "I'm back."
They're gonna come back and they're gonna be like, "Listen,
yeah, I want no part of this."
How dare you?
Gaul loves tested limits. He loves poking. Gaul's a human poltergeist. That's his whole bit.
He is a human poltergeist. I feel that from him.
Yeah.
I would have to say kill the pig-headed man for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Marry the little boy, because
yes.
You can't sleep with the little boy. I don't think that could be
I can't sleep with him.
You could.
Fuck
you got
the
it.
lady with the butcher's knife, because that's some freaky shit going on.
You know she's gonna be great.
That's gonna be a good time. I'm telling you.